Metro Division betting preview on Sports Addict Live and Total Apex Sports, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. What's your favorite sport? Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, maybe even boxing. Whatever it is, you can get it at firstroundcollectibles.com. Use promo code SportsAddict for 10% off whatever card you want. That's the number one, STRoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a beautiful, little overcast here in Toronto, but a beautiful nonetheless Tuesday afternoon. I am Mark Sauter, as always, joined by the one, the only Andre. Andre, how you feeling on a Tuesday afternoon, bro?
Feeling pretty good. Can't complain. We got some playoff action in sports. Weather's not the greatest, but the spirits are. So.
Yeah, well, we got a little playoff baseball, and you get to relax for a week or so, a few days anyway.
Allegedly.
The Yankees get the bye. It was so depressing, and we got a lot to get into today, so I won't sit on this for too long, but it was super depressing as a Toronto baseball fan when I realized that the Tigers got in with 86 wins. And it's like, and the Blue Jays weren't this team that were supposed to be bad. I mean, I think we all knew they were going to be bad, but they had, playoff hopes. And 86 got you in. That's a tough pill to swallow. But my grandfather's team's the Tigers, so go Tigers. And fine, Yankees too, whenever the time comes. Fine.
That's the nicest thing I've heard AL East fans say about the Yankees in a very long time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's begrudgingly for sure, but hey, we'll take it. All right, lots to get into. Once again, you're watching Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live and our friends at Total Apex Sports, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. That's the number one, STRoundCollectibles.com. 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire store with promo code Sports Addict. Lots to get into today. We're going to do the Metro Division preview. If you missed it, the Atlantic Division preview is on YouTube and on X, both on my page at Sports Addict Live and Total Apex Sports. Let's just dive right into it, bro. It took a little bit to get to my team last time. It's because the Stanley Cup champions, we had to get to them first, of course. But your New York Rangers, reigning President's Trophy winning and Metro Division champions, the New York Rangers. Last year, Rangers 55-23-4, 114 points, made it to the conference finals, won the division, won the President's Trophy to win the Stanley Cup. They are plus 1,300 to win the conference, plus 600 to win the division, plus 270, which, by the way, is the third shortest odds to win the division, which surprised me. No disrespect to the other teams. You thought there'd be a bit more love for the Rangers to make the playoffs, minus 340 to miss, plus 250 to get over 100.5 points, minus 125, minus 102 to get under that number. Noticeable players out: Blake Wheeler, Alex Wenberg, Barclay Goodrow, Jack Roslovic, and Eric Gustafsson in Riley Smith. Andre, let's start with you, bro. New York Rangers, how we feeling? What do we see? What do we like?
I mean, it feels like the Rangers. You know the goaltending is going to be there. That's pretty much been the story for. You can go back 30 years at this point. When for the most part the Rangers are going to be fine in net. Not just fine. They're going to be good to great in net. Offensively, I know Panarin's got banged up in the preseason. They were trying to move Trouba. There's, it wasn't the smoothest offseason for what the team accomplished. But talent's there. Offensively, they were great on special teams again. The issue when you're looking at the Rangers, you're looking at 5-1-5 play, especially come playoff time. Regular season, there's lulls, there's ups, there's downs, there's highs, there's lows. It's like every other team, every other good team, really. It's never perfect. But this is a Rangers team that's going to get into the postseason. I think the odds tell you that pretty easily. The question is just, what are they going to do when they get there? Are they going to win the conference for the first time in 10 years? It's asking a lot. And I love my boys. I'm not sure. I've seen it too many times where they can get to the conference finals, but where does the scoring come from after that? How do they compete 5-1-5 after that? Or if they compete 5-1-5, suddenly the Panthers are the better team on the special teams. So the Rangers, you can pencil them in for the playoffs. I have winning the division very narrowly over a team we'll get to shortly that I don't want to talk about. I don't want to be good. I have them over 100 points. The question for this team, if you're looking for betting, I guess the plus 270, the odds are good for that, for the division. But, I mean, for me, if you're looking for value, like a real season-long bet for the Rangers, a challenging one, it's the conference, it's the Stanley Cup. They can get to the conference finals, but that's not what the bet's asking you for. They can get to the Stanley Cup. That's not what the bet's asking you for. Getting over the hump has proven difficult for so many coaches, so many iterations of this team, spanning 15 years now. And it's just kind of hard to say, yeah, I can take that with confidence. As much as I love them, as much as I trust them, I don't know if I would take that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, first of all, the over 100.5 points at minus 125, I think that's a lock. And I don't like throwing around the word lock because it's sports, you never know. But you're talking about what, 13 points less than they got last year just to get over the number. I think that's a huge, drop off for this team. I do think plus 270 is a good number. I mean, we're going to talk about a couple other teams here in the Met. Obviously, pardon me. I think the only team that you kind of have to worry about is the Devils. And even then, the Devils is pure speculation at this point. I think we give them a pass because Keith is, historically a very good regular season coach. I think the Carolinas take a huge step back this year. I think, as a whole, the division's a little bit harder than it was last year. I do like the division price at plus 270. Obviously, playoffs, that's pretty much a lock as well. So my favorite sure bet is the over 100.5 points. I think that's a no-brainer. To win the conference, I think is absolutely a good bet. To win the Stanley Cup as well, I think you gotta, if you're sprinkling, like we said last time, if you're sprinkling across all different teams, I think the Rangers are definitely a team that you have to sprinkle on. I do have a quick question, though, before we move on from the Rangers. I'm looking at the depth chart right now, and top six is one of the stronger top sixes in the division, probably the conference. Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, Riley Smith probably in the top six now. Beyond that, though, I mean, Kako, Sam Carrick you have now on the bottom of it, Rempe, the bottom six and the defense does look lighter than it was last year. Am I just seeing things, or is that kind of the reality for this team?
Thinner. This team is thinner. They definitely lost more than they added. I think, as in terms of just like that bottom six, how they're going to look, it really, at least in my opinion, hinges on the health of Filipino. Filipino stays healthy this entire season. You know, he only played like 10 games last year,
Right.
playoff games. I mean, that third line is both ends of the ice looking pretty good. And the fourth line, you know, you're just asking them to get physical, send a message every once in a while with Rempe. So thinner, as far as like names, talent, or not names, but like, or not talent, but names and like recognition. Probably, I think if Hedel stays healthy, huge if. I probably wouldn't bank on, honestly. The forwards are probably looking similar to last year as far as production.
Yeah. I turned on the Rangers game the other night to see, I think it was the Rangers and the Devils were playing preseason, obviously. And I'm like, oh, I wonder, you know, like look a little bit. I didn't recognize anybody on any of the teams. Like at least the Leafs, like there's like some players either, you know, that are fighting to make the team or, you know, a couple pros sprinkled in there. Both the Rangers and the Devils, I'm like, I have no idea who any of these players are. And I like to think that I know a little bit about this league. All right, moving on. The New Jersey Devils to win the Stanley Cup plus 1,100, to win the conference plus 550, to win the division plus 230. The favorites, according to FanDuel, to win both the division and the conference in the Met anyway. Playoffs minus 430 to miss the playoffs plus 300. Over 101.5 points. Minus 111, minus 115 to get under that number. This is kind of my point, like compared to the Rangers, like no disrespect, but the point total is higher. The odds are a lot longer for all categories. Last year, the Devils, and they had a lot of injuries last year, understood, but still 38, 39, and 5, 81 points. So 20.5 points more than all that they got last year. Changes for the Devils. Just pulling it up here. Dude, this site has the Islanders and Flyers ahead of the Devils. All right, here we go. Players in, of course, Jacob Markstrom and Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, Thomas Tatar, and a couple other additions. Players out. Capo Kakinen, he got added at the deadline a little late. Schmid, Smith, Holtz, Nosek, and Tierney. What are you seeing from the Devils 24-25? I mean, I agree that they're going to be a lot better, but these odds seem astronomical compared to what we saw last year. And not to mention, Luke Hughes is going to be out for a decent chunk of the season, at least the first month or two.
Yeah. So this Devils team finished 7th last year. Expectations were a lot higher. They just kind of middled through a lot of the season before finally just punting on the rest of it. I mean, that's what they did. So again, coming into this season, I got to get the punt out the way. They're hyped to hell. And this entire year depends on the additions. It depends on, is Markstrom still Markstrom? Is Pesce? Is Nesson? Is Tatar going to provide some scoring? That's what it is. We don't know what this team is going to be. We know what the parts are on their own, and they're very good. I'm going to believe the sum of the parts equals a much better team. I think this Devils team, I said it when we talked about the division preview, I think this Devils team is going to finish 2 or 3 or within 3 points of the Rangers in second in this division. I'm buying into the hype. I think they have everything there. I think, ironically enough, Rempe just decimating them multiple times last year lit a fire under their behinds. So I'm not taking them to win the conference or the cup. I think they're going to make the playoffs. very easily. I think they're going to have over 101 points very easily. I think they're going to win a playoff series this year, unless it's against the Rangers in the first round.
Which is not out of the realm of possibility. I guess I'm with you. Like, I think to win the division plus 230, I personally, I don't know. This logic might be flawed, but I would almost wait for the Rangers and Hurricanes to get out to a good start and see where we're at after a month. And if the Devils get off, new coach, new system, if they get off to a bit of a rough start, maybe those odds are a little bit, better to bet on. I will say the over 101.5 points. I'm having a lot of trouble with this simply because it's just a lot. Like, that's just a lot more. And I know they had like injuries last year, awful goaltending for like most of the year. That goaltending tandem, though, not only, and this gets lost, not only did they add Jacob Markstrom, but Jake Allen is one of the best backups in the league. Top 5, probably, maybe top 3. I mean, off the top of my head, you have Jonathan Quick. You have Stolars in Toronto. I mean, that's a really, really good tandem. So if you're, counting on Markstrom for 50, 55 games, that's a really good backup to have back there. I do think Coach Keefe, as a Toronto guy, I can tell you he is a very good coach. The playoffs are always the issue, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about regular season. So I like the over for 101.5 points. That just feels like a lot to me. Defensively, adding Pesce, adding Brendan Dillon from Winnipeg, I think those two guys on the back end. And of course, you already have Hamilton. Luke Hughes, once he's healthy, that's a really good top 4 back there as well. So I do like this team. I am buying it on the hype. I'm a little bit hesitant to actually place money on it just because of how 20 points more than last year just feels like a lot. I know, like I said, I know they had injuries. I know all of that, but still 20 points. It does feel like a lot. All right, moving on. Carolina Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup plus 1,400. Win the conference plus 700, to win the division plus 260, to make the playoffs minus 350, to miss the playoffs plus 255 points, same as the Devils, 101.5, minus 113 to go over, minus 113 to go under. Now listen, I understand the Devils. All right, lots of hype. Got the new coach, you got this, you got that, new goalie, maybe stay healthier. But this team lost a lot, and for their point total to be higher than the Rangers, what are you feeling? Quickly, last year they were 52, 23, and 7, 111 points, 3 points away from tying the division with the Rangers. Last year, sorry, 1 second here. Additions. Technology slowing me down. Why don't you go ahead? What do you think about the 24-25 Hurricanes? And I'll throw the additions out when it comes around. What do you got?
Should I think their points total and the odds to win the division? Do I agree with it being better than the Rangers? No. Do I think this is a 100-point team? Yeah. I mean, they've proven it all decade. Last 3 years, more than 50 wins, second in the division last year, first 2 years before that. Obviously, they had the weird bubble year where they were in the South Division, whatever. They were on pace to not win 100 games, pick up 100 points that year as well. Obviously, it was a shortened season, didn't quite get there. 56 games, 80 points, still pretty good. Brenda Moore is still the coach. I know they lost a lot, especially that they'll. But Rod Brendamore's the coach. They're deep defensively. They have a system that works. They still have Sebastian Aho. They still have gamers. The regular season is theirs. They're just menaces in the regular season. You don't want to play them in the regular season. I don't think that's going to change. I think they're going to finish third, but I think they're going to be a 103, 105 point team that finishes third. I just think it's going to be another top-heavy year in the Metro. So I don't think they're going to win in the division. I think they're a lock for the playoffs. I think they're a lock for the overall in the points as well. Not winning the conference, not winning the cup. I mean, we've seen this team in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. This might be not a hot take because I don't think I'm the only one who has this take, but controversial, maybe. I do not understand. So when you look at who they lost and when you look at who they added in, so Carrier, he's in, Roslovic, he's in, Yost is in, Sean Walker, and Shane Gostisbehere. Okay, those are all good players. When you look at who they lost, Gensel, Teravainen, Kuznetsov, I don't know how much that matters. Pesci, Shea, Shea, I got the name right. Tony D'Angelo, Antti Ranta. Again, those last two pieces, I don't know how much that matters. I just don't see it with this team. Now, will they make it to the playoffs? Probably. I do think Washington's gotten better. I think Philly, are they better? I think they're still a hard out, and I think that they're competitive still. Pittsburgh, who knows? I do think with the Devils, what they've done, they're going to be obviously much tougher. It's a long shot, and the odds might not be like too like appealing as a long shot, but I kind of like the plus 255 to miss the playoffs. I kind of like it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not necessarily predicting it, but if we're just throwing out some long shot bets here, you look at it, if Washington is a better team, more competitive team, let's say Rangers, Devils, Capitals. In the Atlantic, we're supposed to be seeing the rise of the Red Wings, Senators, Sabres. I don't know. There's a world. I'm taking under 101.5 points at minus 113. That is, all they need is 10 less points than last year. I do understand with the Rangers, 114 points last year. Their point total is 100.5. And I said there's no way they'll drop off that much. But the Rangers, they lost some pieces, but for the most part, the Rangers are the same team. I do appreciate what you're saying about Rob Brendamore, one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. However, one thing remains true with the Hurricanes, and it was the case last year. It was the case during the playoffs. Their goaltending, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Washington, Charlie Lindgren, and Logan Thompson. Do you like that tandem more than Freddie Anderson and the rookie they had last year? I don't know. If you do like the Hurricanes goaltending better, not by that much, right? Like, I don't know. I can see a world where they finish below 101 points and they maybe miss the playoffs. I don't know.
I mean, all I have to say, and this is backing you up, there's only one person you just named who got a Hart Trophy vote last year. That's all I'm saying. Shout out Charlie Lindgren.
Yeah, and I mean, like, same thing is, I like Sean Walker. He's a good defenseman. I like Shane Gostisbehere, especially Gostisbehere. Really, really good offensive defenseman. But as far as defense, I don't have his stats right in front of me. Take a look at his plus minus last year. Not pretty. Not pretty. So I like the players that they added, but when you're talking about from a defensive point of view, not a whole lot there. All right, let's move on. The Pittsburgh Penguins to win the Stanley Cup, plus 5,000 to win the conference, plus 2,800 to win the division, plus 1,100 to make the playoffs, plus 124 to miss the playoffs, minus 158. Over 90.5 points is minus 102, and under is minus 125. Last year, the Penguins 38, 32, and 12, 88 points. So 2.5 points more than they got last year. Andre, what do you got for the Penguins?
Yeah, if you remember last year, I was very steadfast that this team was not making the playoffs, regardless of how hot or cold they were. I'm changing my tune this year. I have the Penguins, I think I'm going to low 90s, mid 90s on the points. So I'm going to take it over on them too. And I'm taking them to make the playoffs at plus 124. I think they don't have cap space. That is terrifying in case there's a, big injury or, maneuvering that roster is going to be tough. They added depth wise, which is exactly what they needed to do. And I think they have just enough where they can squeak out one last run with Crosby, Malkin, Letang. And I guess Carlson, too, he's on the twilight of his career as well, even though he wasn't a Penguin for most of it. But I think just underrated guys that, like Kevin Hayes, Sebastian Aho, the other one, Matt Grzelcyk, not going to do anything crazy, but they're good enough where with a Crosby, with Malkin can't be worse, you would think. They can make the playoffs. So, yeah, have them as a wild card, first-round exit. But they're going to have a chance to get Crosby one more run.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this, man, because the thing that trips me out about the Penguins is just the fact that they were already old and they just got older. They add McGroarty is top level prospect, probably making it to the roster. That's youth. But other than that, Kevin Hayes, he's a good player, but that's adding age. Just everything that they're doing is just kind of older. The goaltending situation, I still don't fully. Nedeljkovic, we really liked what we saw out of him last year as a backup goaltending. Jari, still don't really know what he is. Is he elite? Is he not elite? It's hard to say. This is one of those teams that I'm staying away from, man. I don't know. The points, it's only, 2 more wins. Well, a win and an overtime loss, maybe they can get one more win. Maybe they can get, that plus an overtime loss. So let's just say 2 more wins. I'll take the over. To make the playoffs is interesting, plus 124. I do feel like this should be a little bit longer odds. It's hard to say. The one thing that I find interesting with the Pittsburgh Penguins is just questions with the rest of the teams trying to make the playoffs. What's Washington going to be? What's Detroit going to be? What's Ottawa, Buffalo going to be? What's Philly going to be? You feel like if it's a, snail's race like it was last year, maybe the Penguins do have a case, but I do feel like Washington's going to be better. And we'll see. I'll take the over points. But it's kind of hard for me to get anywhere else with this team. All right. We were already talking enough about them. Let's bring them on. Washington Capitals to win the Stanley Cup. Your favorite bet of the offseason, plus 7,000 to win the conference, plus 3,600 to win the division, plus 1,500 to make it to the playoffs, plus 164 to miss the playoffs, minus 215 points, 87.5. Over is minus 111. Under is minus 115. Last year, the Capitals 40, 31, and 11, 91 points. So the over is set at what? 4.5, 3.5 less points than they got last year. What do you got with your favorite team in the NHL, the Washington Capitals?
Oh, you know me. I still have my towel from that game 4 in the playoffs last year. The fact that they made the playoffs with a negative 37 differential, crazy. It's not happening again. This team is going the wrong direction. It's what happens when you have not just a superstar, a legend of the game who's at the end of his career, and you try to squeeze out every little run you can get out of him. See if you can just get that one last title. You delay the rebuild. But you look at this roster, there's no Kuznetsov there. There's no Backstrom there.
Yeah.
At least not upright. There's just it's John Carlson, Tom Wilson.
He won't be around this year. I don't believe.
Maybe. I don't even know. Yeah, so it's just hard to look at that team and see anything competitive outside of the greatest goalie that's ever graced the planet, Charlie Lindgren. So I'm fading this team totally. Last year was a miracle. Last year was a fluke. Whatever you want to call it. They shouldn't have sniffed the playoffs. They shouldn't have sniffed 90 points. They did by the grace of God. They're not getting 85 this year, let alone 88. Not making the playoffs, minus 215 is not worth it. The rest of that division conference Stanley Cup you can just discard.
Maybe I'm buying in too much to this hype train, but listen to this, okay? Players out. Darcy Kemper, who cares? He wasn't their starter by the end of last year anyway. Max Pacioretty seems to have some stuff still left in the tank, going to be on the Maple Leafs more than likely. He didn't play very much for them last year. Other than that, no one really of note left the team. TJ Oshie's a big one. Backstrom's a big one, but Backstrom wasn't on the team last year either. TJ Oshie is a big one. I heard just with injury, he's probably on LTIR for the season, and quite likely we've seen the last of TJ Oshie, which is too bad, but that's just the situation that his body is in. Players in. Logan Thompson. That's a great tandem. I'm down for it. Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now, we all know better than to put too much stock in the addition of PLD. But what if this is the year? What if he pans out this year? I know, but hey, what if? Then Andrew Mangiapane, he's a good player for the Flames. He can get you 20 plus goals. Then Jacob Chikrin on the back end, Matt Roy on the back end. I don't know, man. I'm kind of buying in. I like over 87.5 points to make the playoffs at plus 164. Will they? Won't they? I don't know. But plus 164, I'm down for it. Division Conference Cup, that's all crazy talk, I know. But I really like the over 87.5 points simply because I don't think they're going to be that much worse than last year. This might be the exact same team. And if they get 91 points again and they miss the playoffs, that's not out of the realm of possibility. The fact that 91 points last year got you into the playoffs showed how much everyone struggled in the end of that season last year. I like over the number, and I'm down for a long shot at plus 164 to get to the playoffs. I understand what you're saying. This is all if everything goes right, but I don't know, man. I'm not totally out with this team.
I don't know. You take a negative 36 goal differential. You take a career year.
I get it. I think the goaltending is better, and I think the defense is better. I don't know.
I mean, I do.
All right, moving on, and quite frankly, my slides disappeared. So moving on to, oh no, I got one here. Philadelphia Flyers. There we go. Philadelphia Flyers to make it, to win the Stanley Cup, plus 7,500, to win the conference, plus 3,900, to win the division, plus 2,000, to make it to the playoffs, plus 200, to miss the playoffs, minus 265. No respect for the up and coming Philadelphia Flyers. Over 85.5 points, minus 118. Under is minus 108. Last year, 38, 33, and 11, 87 points. In a playoff spot for most of the last half of last year, fell off down the stretch. Andre, what are you looking at with these Philadelphia Flyers?
This is probably the most intriguing team in the Metro. I'm glad it's the team I get to before I have to bounce here in a couple minutes. But all the talk is about Michkov. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Michkov, the rookie. He's here. He's lighting up camp. He's the future. He's bringing Flyers hockey back. And that's fair. I think this Flyers team is headed in the right direction through everything they went through last year. I mean, they had a pretty rough year on and off the ice, especially in like one, and having to move on from that in particular. That was very big. And they handled it pretty well for a young team. The problem is this is a young team, and as much as I love Torts, as much as he has seemed to mature and grow, he's a ticking time. He has been.
Yeah.
And it just makes me so hesitant to buy into another year of him just keeping everything glued together, because once he wears thin on a team, it implodes so quickly. All that being said, I think I would take the over on their points. I think they're going to be right around where they were last year, that 87, 88, 89 range. I see them maybe 90. I think they're a little under 90, but high 80s on the points. Might be that last wild card. I think I'd rather take them for the no. I just don't trust that goaltending situation. They are still very young. The power play was an absolute nightmare last year. I really don't think that's going to get better. So out of the playoffs, another good year, great PK, solid defense, structured hockey, discipline. Assuming that Torts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand what you're saying. I think if you're gonna put a bet on the playoffs, plus 200 is a nice spicy number. You got some money to burn. It's worth a shot. I think that they were in the playoff mix all of last year. To me, I like the over as well. Points 85.5 minus 118. To me, there's just a bunch of like unknowns with this team that you can't really accurately handicap. What is this team going to be? I think this top six, I mean, Konechny, Tippett, Frost, they got some really good players up there. Michkov, this is what I'm saying. Like, Michkov looks really good right now during preseason. What's he going to be? The goaltending, I mean, Ersson last year was really good, overworked down the stretch, faded away. Fedotov, what are we going to get from him? The defense, Sanheim, Drysdale, two top-notch defenders, but there's just not really enough here to really know exactly what we're going to get. If everything goes right for this team, I think they can be competitive. I think they can make it to the playoffs. I think minus 265 to miss is a little bit disrespectful, considering that they were in the mix for the entire season last year for the most part, but to make the playoffs at plus 200, I like the long shot, but I'll take the over on the points as well. All right, the way things go here, sometimes life happens, and we're gonna wrap it up. We got two more teams to get to. We'll come back either later tonight, or we will finish this off at another time. Really quickly, it's the Blue Jackets, who are going to miss the playoffs, and it's the Islanders, who I think are going to be worse than a lot of people do. So really, that's all the preview we really need. I think Islanders miss the playoffs, Blue Jackets miss the playoffs. Do you disagree?
Yeah, I can do both of those teams pretty quick. Actually, Columbus, God bless them, sucks. What happened this offseason? They're not going to be a good team. Like in all seriousness, it's awful. Talking strictly on ice, though, they're going to be the worst team in the Metro again. I don't think it's even close. So fade them. As for the Islanders, we all know about them. They stink. They suck. Who even wants to go to Long Island anyway? So they're gonna have a bad year. Honestly, though, with Waugh behind the bench, we saw in Colorado, he declined each year. He lit a fire under him last year. Got them to the playoffs. Yeah, got them to the playoffs. Yep. They're going to regress, though. It's what happened to him in Colorado. I think it's going to happen to him again. I just don't see the talent there, even with the Anthony Duclair addition. I think they lost a lot of guys who were mainstays, and that would help them. So just to make those two teams pretty quick, not too in-depth, but Blue Jackets are bad in rebuilding. Islanders are stinky in terms of location and roster.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, we do apologize due to real life and some time constraints. We got to bounce a little bit early here. I completely missed this from the chat. Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, our boy always chiming in. We love it. With the Columbus Blue Jackets, really, really quickly, with the Blue Jackets, what happened last year, or in the off season, the truth of the matter is, man, that's really heavy. And Sean Monahan came to the team specifically to be with Gaudreau. I think the fact that they're having his jersey hanging in the locker room all year long, I think it's respectful. I think it's admirable. I think it's heavy, man. And I really do think, and this is the second death that this roster's had in the last, 3 summers. I just think that's a lot to overcome, man. We're talking about human beings, and they probably weren't going to make it to the playoffs to begin with. And so that's just really sad, and it's really heavy, and it's just like the reality of the situation. And with the Islanders, man, that team can score, and who they add, Duclair, he's a good player. I like him, but they didn't add anybody to put goals in the net. I think that the goaltending is, who knows, at best, but I don't know. Maybe we'll come back on and talk more about the Islanders, but I think it's probably unnecessary. We will head out. As always, this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Promo code Sports Addict for 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. Andre, good work by you, bro. As always, great to see you. We'll see you next time. And everybody, have a great day. We will catch you next time.